Hey, welcome back. It is Thursday, October 1st, 2020. It is not September 1st. I lost a month there. We should all be so lucky. I wanted to welcome Richard Cole back. We're going to be discussing the meat and potatoes of Douglas Dietrich in segment 2. We're going to start with Dougie's timeline from September of 68 onward. Richard, why don't you go ahead and take it away?
All right. In September 1968, George Dietrich arrives in San Francisco, California with the family. That's his wife, Dietrich, and his elder sister.
Yeah.
And they are starting to go through the process of obtaining naturalized citizenship, which happened in April 1974. I know this because I have the immigration and naturalization documents for his mother. Yeah.
His mother's name was Diane. Is her actual, did she take on Diana or was it Shu Chin Lin?
I think it was Su Chin Lin. I think that she took on Diana at some point.
Yeah. Okay.
And it may have been at the time of the marriage. I'm not sure. I don't know the history of that.
Yeah, no, it was on the naturalization, Social Security, and all that. That's why I was kind of curious.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Okay. So, San Francisco, they're living in Turk Street, which is in the Tenderloin District, high-rise apartment building. Of course, from what I've found, they lived there to approximately 1982. Douglas early years, probably preschool, elementary school, before middle school, age.
Yeah.
Before, let's say, before 10 to 12. So in 1982, he claims he gets a summer job at the Presidio Post Library as a librarian's aide. That's entirely possible. Those things were very popular, and somewhere along there after that, the family moves to Oakland, California. And I know that they lived there from I don't know, I want to say 1982, but I'm not positive. But they definitely moved back to San Francisco in 1986.
Yeah.
Now his
they moved to Russian Hill that time, right?
That's right.
Yeah. Okay.
And at Russian Hill, and continued to live, and he continues to live at that same address to this day.
Right.
Now, from what I gather from his military record, it says that he enlisted in Oakland, which confirms that they lived in Oakland.
Right.
And he enlisted.
Hey, Richard, that was a delayed enlistment, wasn't it?
That's right.
Okay.
And I know that because it lists PFC E2
right
on there. So
right.
And that normally, that would take a year. He would have enlisted, delayed enlistment, and gone through that for a year just to prepare him for boot camp.
Right.
So they moved to San Francisco. In October of '87, he goes through initial processing and then sent to Marine Corps Recruit Depot, San Diego, for basic training.
Yeah, not a bad place to be.
No, I went there in 1984. My platoon was 2054.
Yeah.
And like I said, I'm not a big guy. I'm considered to be a small man, and I had my difficulties, but I made it through. Made it through.
Yeah.
I don't remember ever having a sense of concern that I wasn't going to make it.
Right. Right.
I just simply did what I had to do, and took it as a challenge every day. Just get up and get through that day.
Yeah, I think there's a different vibe there, though, in San Diego, too, with respect to service. They seem to be a little, I don't want to say relaxed, but I think they kind of look around and appreciate what they've got.
Well, I don't think the recruits have that perception. I think the recruits have a different perception on that.
Well, you would know. I would not.
Yeah, that's right.
It's a beautiful place, though.
It is. Well, it's also disconcerting that when you're out there on the obstacle course, you're seeing planes take off and land from the airport.
Yes.
And
yes.
and some days wishing you were on one of them.
I'll bet.
It was like psychological torture for
a little bit, and the beach and the ocean.
Oh yeah, you could do that, but there were some nasty things about it too. Sand fleas.
Oh yeah.
Like snakes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what happens is that in January 1988, for whatever reason, Dietrich receives an entry-level separation, discharged from the Marine Corps.
And we have no idea why.
We don't. But I could tell you that an entry-level discharge is pretty much the lowest, and it is characterized by not being associated with any disciplinary or medical problems.
Well, okay, you say medical meaning physical, but I tend to suspect, and you correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think they figured out he was a complete nutter.
I would say that would be my first possibility. The second would be that obviously he wasn't medical, so he wasn't injured, is what I'm trying to say.
No, it wasn't anything physical.
Right. And normally a drill instructor will do everything they can to keep a recruit.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, because they want to see him make it.
Yeah.
But and of course, the decision to eliminate Dietrich from the Marine Corps would have been made by a senior drill instructor, and after a long process of evaluation and intervention,
Yeah.
And of course, then finally by his recruit series commander.
Yeah.
Would make the final decision, but I think that he had made it through second phase, which is the first 4 to 8 weeks.
Yeah.
And he had also qualified as marksman with the M16, which is the lowest level you can. But the last part of this phase at recruit training battalion, they call it, would also have involved very intensive, difficult field training, sometimes in full combat gear, including a platoon hump, they called it, which is a forced march for, I don't know, about 10 miles.
Yeah.
So the possibility that if he didn't complete that forced march, then they would have seriously evaluated him.
Yeah.
And they would have done that. And if he decided that he didn't want to continue, even though they tried to convince him to, then they would simply process him out.
Yeah. Yeah. But we didn't get that far. I don't know. He's, how can I put this politely? He's very effeminate.
Yes, he is.
And I just don't think he was quite perhaps physically cut out for that.
Well,
he's prepared for it.
That's quite possible. And he's also enlisting at the age of 21.
Yeah. A little late in the game.
Which is a little late, and of course we don't, we just don't know. We can only speculate, John. That's what I'm trying to say. But,
I understand. But in the realm of possibility, probability, as you've detailed, it wasn't anything physical in terms of a condition, his health, which kind of leads me to believe, as big a whack job as this guy is, I think they figured out, there's something wrong with this dude.
I think so.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is that Dietrich didn't complete basic training.
Yeah, he got his EAS and he was done.
Yeah. Unfit for military service for whatever reason.
Exactly.
And because he served less than 180 days on active duty, he's not a U.S. veteran, as he claims. He's not.
Oh, no. Hell no. No.
No.
You were dismissed with prejudice, basically, in a kind way.
That's right. And that he claims that he suffered abusive treatment, like mock firing squads, rocks in boots, denied protective equipment, says that he was given non-judicial punishment and incarcerated for assaulting a close combat instructor. Now that takes balls, doesn't it?
Yeah, I don't think he had that big a cojones to assault an NCO.
He's saying that he graduated with the rank of Lance Corporal at one point, which doesn't happen. He's already a contract PFC, and that's as far as you go. The Marine Corps is very strict about the promotion process.
Yeah, they are.
And I'm saying he says he was promoted to corporal in less than a year after boot camp. No,
Not
that
possible.
doesn't happen. Not possible.
No, not possible.
He says that he was deployed to Saudi Arabia to Operation Desert Shield and then Desert Storm, that he killed 2 armed Saudi police with his bare hands while on liberty in Al Jubail, that he was court-martialed with a reduction in rank to E3 and returned to duty.
That's right? Never going to happen.
Right. He's given a dishonorable discharge in 1991, awarded SSDI for combat PTSD and damage to his lungs from sarin gas exposure, and he says that he holds a veterans group life insurance policy and the amount of $50,000 authorized by the United States Marine Corps.
They would never do that.
Totally false.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So, other than being basically booted out of basic training before it got into the third phase and the difficult part of it,
he was probably like I said. It's hard to determine, but I'm just saying second phase because it would have taken 15 to 30 days to process him out.
Yeah, but we know for sure he was done less than probably 150, 180 days.
Oh, he was done in 90 days.
Yeah,
definitely.
Okay, good. Done. So he got nowhere.
Nowhere.
Yeah, just unfit for military service. So there you have it. Okay, and Dietrich's not a big guy. He's 5'6" and like 120, 30 pounds, right?
I'd say so. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's my size. Yeah. And at the time when I enlisted, the bottom weight was 105. Now they increased that later to 135 for obvious reasons.
Right.
It's extremely, and I was 105 when I went to boot camp, and I came out of boot camp 120, I think.
Yeah.
I gained 15 pounds.
You probably needed to.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but that's the honest truth. He's not a big guy. Neither am I. I made it. He didn't. Yeah,
exactly. So the crazy claims relating to the sarin gas, is that what he was that what the disability is what he was claiming the SSDI was awarded for? Just to be clear, was it combat PTSD and the damage to the sarin gas?
Well, according to him, when he got Social Security, that was for what he calls the mechanical or physical problems with his lungs due to the sarin gas.
Right. Okay, that's what I thought.
But he says that at one point he went off Social Security to take care of his parents, and so that means that he was employed, and so what he did later was apply for Social Security disability insurance, SSDI, claiming combat PTSD.
Oh, okay.
And he says that was his award for SSDI was combat PTSD. And I guarantee you that there's no evidence of combat PTSD.
Well, there's no evidence of combat.
There's no military service whatsoever.
No. But he does receive disability. But most likely for being a complete nutter.
Probably from some psychological diagnosis.
Yeah, I think it's anyone who listens to this guy, I think that's going to be the almost immediate takeaway is what a freaking nut job.
Right.
Yeah. All right. I'm sorry. Continue.
Okay. So, one of his biggest claims and the basis for a lot of his persona and the basis of everything that he's created is that he was a librarian at the Presidio Post Library.
Yeah.
Now he may have been a librarian's assistant for a summer, But this goes into the story of
The occult.
incinerating documents.
Yeah.
Said he was promoted to a Department of Defense research librarian in 2 years, that he was liaison to Michael Aquino,
Yes.
and that he was responsible for exposing a child abuse scandal that supposedly involved Michael Aquino and others, and that Dietrich was involved in sort of being an informant to the cops. There's absolutely
this is when I first heard of him. And this is a long time ago. I listened to this guy. He sounded kind of hyper. Whenever he spoke, he was very quick. And maybe it was Carrie Cassidy. Project Camelot. But he was the know-it-all of know-it-alls. He knew every fucking thing under the sun, according to him, and had an answer for everything, and was so cocksure. One of the cockiest motherfuckers I've ever listened to, and this is a long time ago. I remember this guy, and he put forth this just intense confidence in everything he talked about. And he did say he was a librarian at the Presidio, but that he'd come across all these crazy documents, that were archived there. And that's how he gained all of this crazy knowledge he had. Yeah.
Well, there's nothing to it whatsoever.
I know.
He made all of it up.
I know.
He also claims that he was a military dependent in order to be able to get the job. Well, he was never a military dependent at all.
No.
He was his father retired before he was born.
Yeah.
See? And
his father was out in 65 September. He was born in October 66?
Yeah.
Yeah. No fucking way.
Now he may have had limited access to the post to the Presidio because his father was retired. He might have been able to go to the library or the PX or the commissary, but he would only have limited access until he was 18.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
But not because he was a dependent, because his father was a retiree.
Right.
That's why.
Exactly.
And the post library was intended for, soldiers and their dependents who lived on post. And it was operated by civilian workers hired by the DOD, not the DOD itself. It was a relatively small library, about 5,000 square feet. There was no basement in it. There was no incinerator, and there was no classified documents maintained there. So there's no late night burning of secret documents, no satanic rituals, no ancient occult grimoire in refrigerated safes. And he lacked the educational requirement to be a full librarian anyway. That requires a master's degree in library science.
Yeah.
And the job DOD military research librarian doesn't even exist.
No.
And of course, he claimed that in one of these occult rituals, that they were carving sigils into the stocks of the wooden stocks of their M16s, and any military guy knows
no M16 has a wooden fucking stock
ever. Yeah,
and
there were no tunnels from the. No, not ever.
Yeah, well,
and there are no tunnels from the Presidio to Los Angeles. That's about 3.
It's on the bay. It's freaking. You'd be underwater.
Right. And it's also 300 miles.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Dougie.
I mean, it's just totally bizarre. But, he did base the majority of his credibility on claiming that he was a U.S. Marine and a DOD librarian, because without that and a couple of other factors, he would not be able to associate himself with the Presidio child abuse scandal or Michael Aquino.
No.
Okay.
No.
So he has planned this. He had planned that for 20 years, and I'm willing to bet that he listened to Mae Brussels broadcasts.
More than likely.
Because she was right there in the area, and she was investigating this. So he probably picked up on that, and that probably inspired the story that he's made.
Well, and she was probably one of the greatest researchers of her generation.
She was.
She was no slouch, man. She was all over it. She knew about the deep state before,
Before William Cooper.
30, 40 years before it became a thing. She was all over it.
Oh, yeah. Now, Dietrich also has a story that he influenced her, and that Michael Aquino tried to assassinate her. But this, it's just one thing after another with this guy.
No, he wouldn't have influenced her in any way, shape, or form. He was in his daddy's nutsack when she was first starting out.
Well, when all this was going on, in 86 and 87, why is it that if he were involved in all that, enlist in the Marine Corps in 87 and get kicked out? See what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Doesn't make any sense. The timeline's not right.
No.
So many things wrong with it.
Yeah. Mabe started well before, Dougie was born.
Yeah.
On her path. She was tremendous. So I've read a lot of her stuff, and it's some of the best research I've ever read for people who aren't aware of her.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No,
Wanted to give her a prop because she's one of my heroes.
Yeah, I have some of my research. I still have some of those old broadcasts that are still available.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. She's a pretty incredible human being. She was something else. Well, can we talk about the biological son of Hitler? Because this is the most farcical damn thing I've ever heard.
Well, that's further down my list here, but
yeah, but could we jump ahead to that just for a second, and we can backtrack a little bit? But we need to. It's just so unbelievable. I love that part of this, but continue, and we'll get to it. But that claim it's so insane.
Well, like I said, he started claiming this in 2018.
Mm-hmm.
He put this out. He claims that his mother was a diplomatic level interpreter, born in 1923, that she was part of a Japanese delegation to Berlin in 1938, which would have been the anti-Comintern pact between Japan, Italy, and Germany.
Yeah.
October 24 to November 25, 1936. Now, he says that his mother was introduced to Hitler by Otto Dietrich, and he claims to be related to Otto Dietrich and Sepp Dietrich, by the way, both Nazis.
Which we know is nonsense. Grandpa was working as a milk processor.
Yeah, and he's not related to Marlene Dietrich either.
No, he's absolutely not.
And he says that that his mother and Hitler became somewhat of an item, his exact words. And that yes, they most definitely had sex, according to him. And
go ahead. Sorry, the account of the artificial insemination is pretty crazy too.
Yeah, well, he claims that she collected some of that and preserved it and sent it to Japan, to Unit 731, and that she was a member of Unit 731. And she also took samples to China and then artificially inseminated herself in Taiwan in February 1966 while being married to George Dietrich.
Yeah. That's some powerful stuff she scraped off the bed, off the linens.
Well, if anyone who can do the math knows that if she was born in 1923, she would have been 13 years old in 1936.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's that.
Yeah. There is that. That, and how do you preserve the stuff for 20 years?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's 30, a feat.
30 years.
I guess. Did Douglas ever say it might have gone to Wright Pat? She worked at Wright Patterson where they had all the cryo labs, and that's how she was able to swing that. No, that's too bad. That would have made it even more compelling.
I don't even know if they had invented cryogenics yet.
I don't think they had.
Not in 1936. I don't think so.
Nope. All right. Well, I'm sorry to take you out of the timeline, but
all right.
that is Yeah, the biological son of Hitler. It sounds like Dr. Krieger. It's pretty remarkable. The boy's from Brazil, But yeah, go ahead, continue. And again, I apologize for taking you out of the timeline, but I want people to get a taste of how much of a nutter this guy truly is.
Yeah. Well, let's go back to his claims about the Presidio here, because
yes,
after his claiming to be responsible for its closure, and of course Michael Aquino consistently denied ever knowing or being involved with Dietrich in any way.
Of course.
And did so until his death on September 1st, 2019.
Yeah.
And in his book, Extreme Prejudice, The Presidio Satanic Abuse Scam, it contains information that refutes Dietrich's entire story.
Yeah.
And there was no evidence Dietrich was involved as an informant, no evidence Michael Aquino was involved. The prosecutors and counselors were found to have influenced the children to lie. Dietrich spent years developing all this. He stalked coast to coast AM radio and called into the shows many times.
Yes, he did.
Until he first appears on Coast to Coast in December 2008, and again in 2011. And the first one was to speak about Pearl Harbor, and after that he starts to speak at various UFO conferences and that. It claimed to be writing a book that was never written, and his big thing is that the Japanese won the war.
Yeah.
That's his deal.
Yeah.
He claims that Pearl Harbor was a preliminary strike by the Japanese because of the first American volunteer group, Flying Tigers, planned to bomb Japan on December 8th. And there's evidence that he probably got that idea from an article in Soldier of Fortune magazine in 1989, and that there other people had written about it and made that suggestion.
Yeah.
Because of a document called YB 355. Now, Dietrich claims to a top secret document, of course, in July of 1941, but declassified in 1970.
Yeah.
But he claims that he had incinerated that document as well.
Yes, of course.
But suddenly it surfaces in 1991 in the National Archives.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. The Presidio Library, we know, did not contain any classified, secret, or top secret documents.
Absolutely not. In fact, those would have been it was not a military library. It's a civilian library.
Yes.
Those would have been kept in a secure area somewhere else on the post.
Absolutely.
And the first in the Flying Tigers, were basically had permission to be created in July 1941. The document says nothing of having any plans to firebomb Japan on December 8th. I mean, they didn't have pilots. They didn't have planes.
No.
This was supposed to be something through the Lend-Lease Act with China that was supposed to happen. And they were going to try to make it happen by the end of the year. But because of the attack on Pearl Harbor, nothing happened. And it wasn't until January.
Jimmy Doolittle.
Jimmy Doolittle wasn't involved in that.
No. When they took the B-25s off the carriers, that was the first real bombing of Japan.
Yeah, it was, and of mainland Japan, correct.
Yes.
But the Flying Tigers weren't even in combat with the Japanese.
No, China. Yeah. Weren't they posted up in China?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and their first combat with the Japanese was January 20th, 1941.
Yeah.
And they were there for 6 months, and they once they got their pilots and whatever planes they could get. Now, the 66 bombers that were mentioned in a secret telegram to Chiang Kai-shek from from Curry there, the guy in charge of the Lend-Lease, was saying that the president had approved the plan for it, and that these 66 Lockheed Hudson bombers were going to be sent, 24 probably immediately, but the rest by the end of the year of 1941.
Yeah.
But these Lockheed Hudson bombers were designed for coastal patrolling, and they would have had a very limited range,
Absolutely.
very very inadequate bomb load, and totally defenseless against the Japanese Zero.
Yeah, they were no B-25. There were no turrets on those Lockheeds.
Absolutely not. It was ridiculous to have those operate as long-range bombers. Nobody would have made a plan like that.
Yeah.
Now, what they envisioned later on was having B-17s in China and bomb Japan from there.
Yeah.
You know, but the fact is that it never happened.
No.
After they attacked us, those plans got ditched. They brought our pilots back home after 6 months of combat and put them back in the U.S. military.
Yes.
Yeah. You know, that they were actually members of the Republic of China Air Force. You know, they had resigned their commissions to go there.
Yeah.
You know, and people like Pappy Boyington.
Yes.
You know, Pappy was one of them, and
I'm Black Sheep, baby.
That's right.
Corsairs.
Yeah. So in July 1942, the unit was disbanded and rolled into the 14th Air Force.
Yeah, they brought everybody home.
Yeah, they did. And the fact is that Lofton Curry, the guy who was involved with the Lend-Lease, you know, Dietrich has this story that Curry, because he was a communist or sympathizer of sorts, everybody knew it. There were a lot of like him, you know, that were communist sympathizers, by the way.
Yeah, there were.
But there's no evidence that Curry was ever a Soviet spy, and Dietrich says that Curry warned Richard Sorge, a Soviet spy in Japan, and that this Russian spy Sorge was captured October 41 and executed November 1944, not November 1941 as Dietrich claims, you know. So it's just totally false. And it's just totally false.
Yeah.
You know,
Yes, it is.
You know, and he does that to try to substantiate the fact that there may have been you know, a plan to bomb Japan, and that Curry told the Soviet spy, who then got captured and confessed to the Japanese that this is what was going to happen, and they immediately executed him and then bombed Pearl Harbor.
Right.
Absolute insanity.
No, crazy. Yeah, complete nutter.
Yep.
Now, he, in detailing, he attempted to claim, well, no, he did claim, but in attempting to substantiate his claim that the Japanese won the war, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He claimed that the surrender aboard the USS Missouri was a fraud. It was a fake.
Yes, he makes that claim. Yeah, he makes it because he said the flag was displayed backward and the stars were upside down. And
that's not how it works.
And the Japanese didn't have any swords, so they couldn't have surrendered. You know, they couldn't have without their swords. But
they weren't permitted to have them.
Well, they had already been surrendered or seized.
Exactly.
You know? So that's why they didn't have swords.
It was a ceremony, you know.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just you know.
And the forward flag, you know, that was done intentionally into the wind on a plane or a ship.
Well, for two reasons. One because that particular flag had been flown by Commodore Perry when he entered Japan to open it up for trade in 1853 and 1854, and that was the original flag. But it had become so fragile, and being stored at the Annapolis at the U.S. Military Academy, it had become so fragile that the director of the museum at Annapolis ordered to have a protective backing put on it, and put it on the side that was the most damaged. So the flag appeared to be backwards, and then it was placed in a frame. But
Right.
MacArthur wanted it there, so it got there.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
MacArthur was a distant cousin of Commodore Perry. That's why.
Yeah.
And he wanted that symbolism. And what they did was, when they got it to the Missouri, they mounted it. They mounted it on the port side bulkhead, so that the flag appears to be on the attack. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. Yeah. Into the wind.
Into the wind.
Spear kind of thing, right?
In fact, we all in the military wear U.S. flag patches in the same manner.
Yes.
It's not that it was displayed backwards.
It's not satanic.
Well, the stars are not upside down. That was a pattern that was pretty popular at the time. In fact, the Star Spangled Banner has a similar pattern. It's not, the stars weren't upside down.
No.
You know, it had nothing to do with the satanic ritual. And
No.
it's just, it's just, you know.
Oh, what a nutter.
You know, and he claims that the courier that brought the flag there, was so tired that he missed the ceremony. But I have evidence here that he was at the ceremony. He observed it, and his name was Lieutenant Bremyer, and he watched the proceedings from above the main deck.
Yeah.
And afterward, he carried the flag, as well as news releases, photographs, motion picture film of the surrender back to Washington.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
you know, the flag wasn't illegal. The ceremony wasn't illegal.
It wasn't satanic.
No, and in fact, according to USC Title IV definition of flag stars, there's no legal stipulation, even to this day, regarding the type of orientation of the stars on the U.S. flag.
No, there is none.
It was just a later executive order, I think by Eisenhower, that made that specific pattern of stars for display by the U.S. government. You know, that the point
that I believe was what, in 53 or 54 he did that?
Yeah, I think so. You
Yeah.
know, that the stars should always point upward, you know.
Yes. Yeah.
Like that. So
yeah, I think that was 53 or 54 if my memory serves.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah. You just, oh God. I wish we could broadcast some clips of Douglas, but I know it's going to get us shut down in an instant.
Most likely.
That kind of guy. But people, I'm going to link a bunch of videos in the playlist of Douglas and let people see this character for what he is. But is there anything else you wanted to add in this one?
Well, not unless you want to go into what he claims about the treaties that prove that we surrendered to the Japanese.
No, because you've documented how batshit crazy all that is.
Well, it's established fact that these two treaties said nothing about surrendering to the Japanese.
No, nothing at all.
You know, and you know, they didn't happen at the Presidio either. They didn't happen on the Presidio. Anybody can look this up. I placed the links to all of this, you know, on my blog in this outline. Anybody can go look at that,
right,
if they want. You know,
I think one of the more farcical claims that he made too was that the United Nations was created at the Presidio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He claims that it was created in 1940.
Yeah, no.
And he bases that on the fact that there was a flag that he says was the United Nations battle flag, which isn't at all.
No.
You can look it up. It's a white flag with 4 bars on it.
Yeah.
Someone created the flag after a speech by Roosevelt, you know, about all the nations being united and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Later, the flag was a prototype for the first UN flag, but it had never had anything to do with the UN itself, because the UN wasn't created until the San Francisco Conference
in October of 45.
That's right, and not on the Presidio either. That was conducted
hell no.
At the War Memorial Opera House.
Exactly.
And that's where the birth of the United Nations was. Well, and before that, it was actually the basis of that was in Georgetown, Washington D.C.
Yeah.
That a place called Dumbarton Oaks.
Yeah.
In 1944. That's the basis of the just prior to the San Francisco Conference, which established the UN. The discussions for establishing it were in Washington D.C.
Well, actually, I think they started those discussions in June of '44. Believe it or not, I think they may have come prior to that during Bretton Woods.
It resulted from Bretton Woods and Malta and all
exactly.
and that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right on. All right. Well, anything else you would like to add to finish this segment off?
No, I think we covered all that. Yeah.
Yeah, you did a great job. Thank you very much. And I apologize for having you jump ahead.
That's okay.
The biological son of Hitler, but I was so desperately waiting to talk about that because that and us losing the war to Japan and surrendering to Japan are two of the staples he upholds to this day.
Absolutely. And in fact, he claims that, it's going to shock and influence the ufology and exopolitics community and change everyone's view on World War II. And the fact that he is the son of Adolf Hitler, well, people are going to take him a lot more seriously.
Yeah. Well, in the next segment, we're going to get into the timeline as to when Dougie, and I remember this vividly, in the early teens, 20 teens, of Dougie getting on, many, many radio programs and just talking like a lunatic rabbit, I guess is the only way I can describe it. I mean, it was crazy then. But how wildly out of control it has become, even to this day, is pretty remarkable. And you connected with Duncan, right? Nexus down there in Australia. And he gave you, he's a great guy, good member of our community. He gave you a pretty interesting account of Douglas's, which you weren't sure if he'd actually been down there to Australia for that conference. You weren't convinced he'd actually gone, correct?
Well, no, I strongly suspected that he was lying about all that. I doubted that he had the passport even.
Yeah.
But it was just something that there was no way I could confirm or refute.
Right. Sure. But Duncan,
but Duncan, he did contact me, and we got the real story. And it wasn't that Dietrich was. That everything he had was stolen, and that he was basically a prisoner down there, threatened with incarceration and probably death, and that Duncan abused him and threatened him, and that when they got back on the plane to get home, finally, that someone had screwed with the engine, and it must have been an assassination attempt by Michael Aquino. And the rest of this crap. But no, the reality was that his manager, Lorianne Fenton, at the time, Duncan didn't want anything to do with because of her poor reputation, and that she was a large woman, and the cost for him would have been double to have her go along. So it was either Douglas or nobody. But Douglas secretly got another woman, Noreen Helphand, to go with him, unbeknownst to Duncan, and they both showed up drunk and on drugs, and Douglas was barely able to do his speaking duties, and it was just a mess.
Yeah,
a total mess. Yeah.
Well, I am so glad. When Duncan contacted me initially about it, and then you and I started talking about it, I'm like, oh, hot damn. So that worked out, because that was one of the very few things you weren't able to confirm or deny, and yet there it was.
There it was, yep.
And it came with a big bow and a great story behind it. And I think Lori Fenton, I think it actually would have tripled the cost, wouldn't it have? Because she was such a large person, that she required 2 seats to fly.
Well, the interesting thing about this is that Duncan was prepared to pay for their return trip.
Right.
But he figured that Fenton would take up 2 seats. So you're right. It's like the cost for 3
Yeah.
instead of 2.
Yeah. Okay.
So how did Douglas get down there? For the initial trip. Well, Douglas claims that an anonymous woman paid for the trip down there.
Yeah.
And so we don't know who the woman is.
No.
We don't know. This was in 2013,
Yeah.
approximately. And of course, he was then interviewed by Nexus Magazine. But yeah, how he got down there, how he got the money for it,
Who knows?
Who knows?
But showed up shit-faced.
Yep.
And clearly under the influence of some drugs.
According to Duncan, yes.
Yeah, according to Duncan. And Duncan is, I'm going to take Duncan at his word there. All right, well, listen, Richard, thank you so much for bringing this forward. We're going to pick up where Dougie moves into quasi-fame, delusional fame, beginning with that first interview on GCN with Joyce Riley. So we'll pick up where we left off next time, all right?
Okay.
Hey, thank you, Richard. Greatly appreciate it. Good having you on again. You take care, all right?
All right, thank you.
You bet. Thank you. Bye.